new? Anything specific you want to just talk about real quick, or it doesn't have to be real quick, but
What you got?
I don't have anything, and I can't think anything off the top of my head right now. But I'm sure something will come to mind as we get going.
You don't want to talk about the mailbox?
Oh, not really, because we can share it, but it's nothing.
So he installed a mailbox on Friday or Saturday. And after he installed the mailbox, like he built like a mound around it because he wants to put some river rocks and create this like mound at the base. And he did all the things. And when he was done, I went outside because I wasn't part of the installation. And I saw the mound and I was like, oh, I would have preferred that it be flat. And then I asked, is it possible to change it? So we already talked through this, but we're just sharing it so you're up to speed on what we've been up to. And so I didn't think nothing of it that day. And I was like, well, I appreciate, what you did. Thank you so much for doing the mailbox, and all the things went back in. So that's last week. And yesterday we actually had a conversation and recorded it, because in that moment, he's like, if you need something or you want something from me, can you ask me up front versus when I'm done with the whole thing? But when we got to the root of it, it was really more about him not feeling appreciated, because it's like I came home after practicing with our son or going to with soccer games and doing all this stuff, and I installed the mailbox and it was late at night. And your first response was, well, I didn't like it that way. He didn't say that. I'm paraphrasing. I prefer it this way. So I was like, that's fair, right? You didn't feel appreciated. I tried to acknowledge that I did appreciate you, but I can also understand that the timing for when I said that negated all that you did, right? So we talked through that. But then I also shared, for me, sharing with him a preference shouldn't negate either that what you did, meaning, and I can't say that that's how he should feel, but I'm one that I'm going to ask for what I want. Had I known that this was the direction you were going, I would have said something early on in the process, but I'm in the house doing whatever I'm doing, right? So again, I don't want to say yes, but, because that negates everything before the but. So one, I acknowledge that you didn't feel appreciated. And I would also offer that when I'm asking for what I want, I don't know how to make you not feel like. Does that make sense? Like I still want to ask for what I want without undermining your situation. And yes, it could happen at the beginning of a project, but if I'm not part of the beginning of the project, I might ask in the middle of a project. And if it's not feasible, it's not feasible. Because when he told me he couldn't change it, I was like, okay, and went on about my business. Right. So those two things. I do think that I need to understand, because like I said, I can understand how he received it as, well, dang, I just did all this work and all you got is you don't like the mound. Thanks. Right. I could see that. And I need to understand how to communicate those wants and needs without making you feel that way.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, first of all, good job. Good job that you guys had the little situation. Good job that I don't want to call it a little situation, because
it could have been big.
And but I'm glad, Daryl, that you spoke up. Right? Because that's what this is all about.
Right.
So
right.
kudos to you for speaking up. And then, Micah, you bring a very good point. It's kind of like, yeah, my bad. I didn't even really think about, I'm just like, kind of shooting down this thing intentionally. But then how do I then communicate like what I'm feeling? And so, as we probably know, either in the past with you or people you know, the communication thing always becomes this thing where I don't want to hurt nobody. So then we start pulling back, not saying anything, and you know how well that works out, right? So it's not easy, but this is the difference between marriages and strong marriages. This is the difference between relationship and strong relationships. Is that how the two of you coexist with your own preferences, needs, or whatever, without the other person then feeling slighted or you become too worried about them and then you don't speak. So I'm not sure that there is a lot different that you could do other than maybe preferences. So I think what has happened now is that now you became self-aware. So there's some self-awareness that has happened for you in this process, which you will take to something that happens down the road, right? It's like, yeah, so I'm not really feeling it, whatever it is, And then the startup, the soft startup, always happens, but when we're just living life, we're just trying to get things done. You got that done. I'm trying to do this. It's like, oh shoot, yeah, I wish that was different. Especially personalities. And Mike, that seems to be sort of your personality. You just no nonsense.
Yep.
And so this is where you come to understand who your husband is and what he needs. And it's like, yeah, this is going to require a soft start. Something more like, hey, honey, that was really nice. You know what? I really wish I had thought about this before you got started. I really put it like that to be flat. Is it too late to flatten it? And then you're like, well, yeah, it's like, there's no worries. Because literally, that's what you said at the end anyway. Right? But yeah, so soft startups is
okay.
But good job.
So yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about that?
So I have a couple. There's a couple of things that came to mind. One, everybody not going to get their way all the time in a relationship, right? So in that situation, Micah coming at the end of the project and in so many words would like to make a change to the project, right? And I'm feeling like I'm done with this project. It's time to move on to the next one. So we kind of in a stalemate there. I'm done with the project and she wants some changes done to the project. So how should couples move about getting to who get satisfied in that situation, I guess, for lack of better words, because we had a thought about that. Like, what do we do when we reach, a
stalemate.
A stalemate, a disagreement, even in disagreements. Because it could be something as simple as painting the front door blue versus purple. You know what I mean? So we was thinking about that when we was walking and talking yesterday. So
that's a very good point. And once again, people who have stronger relationships tend to do it better than people who don't. And because people who don't have strong relationships, what is happening is that there has been a lack of safety in being able to communicate and have acceptance of one another. And one of the things where you guys have really come to grow in is that you already had this in the beginning, but I think somewhere kind of got lost in between, life, the kids and everything. And then, everybody started kind of thinking about themselves, right? Like me.
Right, right.
And so it is okay for you to think about yourself. I mean, let's not be ridiculous here, like, But the thing of it is that when you talk it out, and you almost bring it to something. I used to teach my kids. I don't know if you guys remember the debate class. So if you remember debate class, it was basically like this well-groomed argument, right? Where you ain't using curse words, you staying focused on the issue, you're just presenting your side, right? And so, debate for some people that sounds kind of strong, so I don't want to use that word, but just in that type of vein, I would say it's sort of like that when you're discussing something.
Having a healthy debate, having a healthy debate.
Having a healthy debate and present like your take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the end of it, though, right, there has to be an understanding that somewhere, okay, and it could be based on different things. Like, let's say, for instance, you guys want to purchase something. We already know this is the budget, $1,000, and then somebody come and say, "Well, hey, for $1,500." Yeah, I live here.
Right. Gotta be realistic, huh?
But somebody else might say, "Hey, but for $1,500, we could do this."
Right.
So that doesn't mean the $1,500 is out, but present your argument because you are a team, and let's face it, maybe spending an extra $500 might not be a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
But if it comes back to the understanding, it's like, nope, thousands where it is, it's like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
So,
you have to present your case.
Present your case.
Mm-hmm. Why you say but?
But when you have two strong minds,
strong debaters, yes,
or two different, two strong personalities,
person.
Well, there is an ending to everything, right?
Yeah,
and
gotta come to agreement.
Yeah, so you just can't not debate, and truth be told, that's where really that's where those arguments really come. Because a lot of times they do start with a debate, but depending on the couple, what they have worked through, right? It's like they don't know the rules of engagement. So it really starts off with those conversations. You might can remember times you guys just start off just trying to have a conversation, and next thing you know, all hell has literally broke loose, right?
Yeah.
And that's because we don't have what we call the rules of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Things such as why you debating. It ain't no curse words. We name call it. We ain't bringing up what happened 10 years ago. Those are things that then set fire to our nice little debate.
Yeah.
But I think you brought up something that triggered something for me, because I do think that even in healthy debate, right, I think there are times where we're engaged in healthy debate and it feels sometimes more like a fight to be right than it does arguing your case. Does that, right? I don't even want to say arguing your case, right? Laying the foundation for your case. I think as I'm listening to you explain to us what that looks like, yep, I can see us in a healthy debate, but then even in that, I think we don't come to a resolve because we're both at some point fighting to be right, as opposed to getting to a point of decision making. Is that and I think that's a lot of times, and I'm speaking from my perspective, I think that's a lot of times how we end up at stalemate, because it's like, this is mine. I'm standing on business. I ain't letting loose. And that might not be how you go into the conversation, but I do think that the conversation ends up there at times. And that's how we end up with, well, I want this and you want that. Well, I guess we ain't moving. Okay.
So self-evaluation is an ongoing process, right? I mean, we evaluate ourselves all the time, and you should be. We should always be asking ourselves questions. I mean, because the flesh is interesting.
Yeah.
The flesh will deceive you. Like, all I did was ask a question.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
So that's why it's so important to you have to be pretty much well-rounded is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I try to do work with people is to help them be well-rounded. So, I mean, I'm not trying to pick out what people's religion is or whatever it is, but it's good to have some spiritual grounding too. Because something you have to check back in with the flesh, because I mean, the flesh will lead you astray because the flesh wants what it wants.
Yep. Egos get involved and clash and all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember one method I think you shared with us, and we also implemented during our healthy debate. Whereas someone owns a particular space in the household responsibility, and that person ultimately gets, I don't want to call it the final say, but kind of we lean to that person's expertise because that's what they focus on. And I think we got to keep that in mind, because I think we get away from that or forget that we have that in place.
I think we need to revisit it because I think there are gaps. Like there are areas that's not been identified, and I think those are probably the areas where we struggle the most.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because it's clear about kids in school. It's like, you defer to me, no issue, no problem. But like aesthetics, we never talked about. Well,
we talked about the yard before, when it was very simple and I was just cutting the grass. Oh yeah, that's your job.
Oh yeah,
that's all you.
Absolutely.
But now it's time to spend some money on some things and switch things up.
Because I'm the financier. we acknowledge that I own the finances.
Absolutely.
So yes, when it's time to spend money.
Yes, but it wasn't a thing of how much stuff is going to cost. It's how we're going to do it.
No, that's still, we didn't talk about that. We only had a yard to worry about at the time.
That's part of the yard.
That's why I'm saying we need to revisit it.
That is part of the yard.
It's not. It's a mailbox.
I'm glad to hear you say that about revisiting, because, one of the things I know people do not like to hear, because we like the romantic part of marriage, right? You know, you don't love and all this stuff. And I mean, and that's fun when you get started, but, it's very good to have a real understanding and foundation. And listen, this is a business. Mm-hmm. It literally is, And so as you think about, I know, like, Daryl, you haven't really worked like for others, like corporate, like she has, but you got your own business. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there come times where it's like, wait a minute, let me go back and revisit this, Mm-hmm. And then you have rules around, things change, and you have to kind of like stay in touch with what's happening, as opposed to, 10 years ago, that's how it was. And 10 years later, we still doing the same thing. Right. Mm-hmm. And so to just stay in touch, which is funny, I think I did have on my list, which I will ask you a little bit about that in a minute, about your weekly CEO meetings, or whether weekly or however often you do it. Mm-hmm. But that's where all that is so important. And when we are so busy that we don't take time to schedule and attend and work through that, it comes out on the other side.
Yeah.
It does. So,
what's another hard thing is that we never say this, but we both, I'm speaking for myself, but I can speak for Michael when I say we both don't trust each other decorative styles 100%.
We don't.
Because she looking to see what she looking to see how I'm gonna do something, and I'm looking to see how she gonna do something.
And for me, I won't say that I don't trust it. They just don't always align. So it's not that I don't trust your deck. I think
it's okay if you don't.
But no,
I don't always trust yours. You already know that.
Well, we know that, and I've never failed you. Anywho,
yeah, I'll show you. Right.
So I think the issue is, for me, it doesn't align. So it's like we talk about this vision. I have a certain vision that I'd like to navigate, or that I want to wait, that I see a thing. And then when he interjects his vision, like, they don't match. So it's like, well, I don't know how your vision fits into what I was envisioning this to be. So I can't see it. So it's not that I don't trust it. It just doesn't align. I think you have style. I think you are great at the things that you do put together. And I don't doubt your ability to do it. It just don't be in alignment with where I thought we was going or want to go. Like with these rocks you want to put.
Right. But so let's talk about that, because that's a decorative style. It has nothing to do with money, because they don't cost anything, right? Mm-hmm. It just, like, for you, it sounds like I don't like those there. I like simple, what you said. I like simple. To me, one big rock in the flower bed with no flowers, only a couple green bushes, is very simple. You can't get no simpler than that. Like there's no flowers there. It's like a couple green bushes, and maybe I'm thinking like a rock that for an accent piece on the edge of the flower bed. You know. So
one.
No, not one. It's like two of them.
Oh, two rocks.
But like rocks are part of landscape. That's why they sell them at landscaping places.
Which is why we agreed we would do a mix of mulch and river rock. And I'm like, oh, that's nice and minimalistic and simple. And you got these little bushes, right? And we had flowers on the side of the house, and I killed them because I didn't water them. So it's practical why we don't have flowers because, well, Micah.
Which is another thing. Since you don't come outside to even take care of things, you shouldn't have no say.
Because you just told me the yard is your responsibility. See how I went full circle on that? See how I did that?
Right. So why I gotta wait for your approval of these rocks then?
Because I'm part of the design team. I'm part of the design team. Your maintenance, I'm design.
No.
There's two parts to that. Your maintenance, I'm design. Anywho, but yes, to your point, it's not that I don't trust it. It's just we don't. That's an area where we stalemate and we. I
don't trust Micah's.
I'm fine with that.
And so I'm gonna say this: Micah has done some amazing things around the house.
More times than not.
More times than not. More times than not. Like when she on it, she on it. But when she started penny pinching, I'm looking like, why did we buy that? And why is that right there? That looked like something that it just don't go there. I'm just gonna say that. It looked like it just don't go there. That's all.
Well, and here's the thing, and I think for you, what you don't understand, some things are trial and error. Like everything is not going to be a hit the first time. And so there are things that I've tried where I've agreed with you, like, yeah, that ain't hitting. But you don't know until after you've done it that it's not hitting. But it's like you make one mistake and he like, oh, she gonna ruin the whole everything. And it's like, now we don't rehab the bunch of properties. And when I got budget, we make things go. Like you're like, oh yes, wifey got it because she know what she doing, right? So if you give me the budget, I can make moves,
but
again,
who handles the finances?
Let me give an example.
You gotta make your own budget.
I'll give an example because this is one of the things that irritates his soul. This little bookshelf
like
behind us.
Hell.
When I bought it, it was not in a store. I had to buy it online. So I can only go based on what I saw and what the reviews were. It wasn't until we got it, we was like, oh, that's not as sturdy as we thought. But I bought it, so we gonna put it like, if you don't tell nobody, don't nobody know but us. Well, you understand when nobody comes in here and be like, ooh, that's
trust me. Trust me. Don't
nobody even be in my office. Like, this is not a space where guests come and hang out. So get out. And if you got an opinion about it, get out of my house. Like, but that's an example, right? Of one of the things.
You see how she focusing on what somebody come in and what they say. If they don't like it, get out. It's not even that. I gotta walk around and look at this thing all the time. I work in this office. Be in here either. I work in this office.
It's not your office.
You see how that just happened?
It's my office.
This originally started off.
Interesting because from here it's like, oh, that's a cute little bookshelf.
You so nice, Miss Ivy.
Thank you.
Well, listen though.
But I can relate because I got some of those things too, where it's kind of like this thing here, but you know.
This office really started off as our home office together. So you were supposed to be at your job working and going back to the office, going back to work.
I was never in the office. When we bought this house, I was hired remotely.
Right, but remember you were supposed to go back to the office.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
But anyway, this was our home office together.
Is it still a joint office now?
It's always been from the very beginning.
We can't both work in here at the same time because we both I'm in meetings all day. Like I'm always talking. So, and yeah, no,
I don't mean like the same hours.
And it was mine when we came in here because when you gave me the free for all, it was like, babe, this is your room. Do with it what you want.
Because I thought she was going to do this room like the rest of the house she did, which is great.
And it's a bookshelf. But she got mad about one bookshelf in a whole room.
She got in here in this part of the house and it just felt like, and it's the front. This the first thing you see when you come in the door.
Ain't nobody said that. Everybody that comes in that door, and all this is.
Once again, I said for me. Remember, okay, well, I got to come in and out that door every day.
Then put me a door up. Then you ain't gotta see it.
I'm about to put you out this office. That's what I'm about to do. I'm about to call your job. It's like, bring her back to work.
So, but I say that to say, right, one decision, like he said, more often than not, I hit the mark.
Okay, I can show you another one.
Okay, two. What I'm saying is, like, you are holding that against me for all of eternity. It's trial and error. We bought a thing online. We saw it.
Well,
we got it.
We just talked about this the other day. You said once you lose some trust, you just don't just get it back on one thing or two things.
That's true. And because now I'm getting irritated. I'm getting irritated because I agree, but I feel like I have shown you over and over again in multiple things since these two purchases.
What's the first thing
I hit the mark?
The first thing I said, you have done some amazing things more time than we had agreed to that at the very beginning.
But then you just negated it with why, but I still don't trust
No,
it.
I pointed out why do I feel like that. That's all.
Okay. Got it.
So I think lack of trust might be a strong word here. That's probably pretty strong language, right?
That's how you feel. That's how you feel.
Well, I think, and sometimes when we're looking for words, some words is like low hanging fruit.
And she know that about me, so I don't know why I'm even taking it that way. Because we always say that.
But this is so in full transparency, you understand that this is a very prickly topic for me. Like as laughing and joking as we are, because history, if we're going to say because of history, you feel how you feel because of history. The way that he has positioned this conversation with me in the past feels very much like the conversation about the mound, right? Like because from now on, whenever I do something, the first thing out of his mouth is, well, I hope you don't got stuff looking crazy. That doesn't feel good, right? Okay. That doesn't feel good to me. And so having this conversation is triggering that for me. Right. So as simple and as funny as we're laughing and talking through it in the moment, you're aware that hits me different and it bothers me because it's like I'm just out here just doing willy-nilly. It's like you just look like I be out here looking crazy and got us looking crazy. And we talking about a bookshelf in a whole room, right? But this bookshelf, you've decided, we gonna be looking crazy. I hope you don't got it. And it's just like, well, dang. Like, that's how you see me, right? That's how you see the decisions I'm making?
No, for me, it's more like, I tell you this all the time. It's about when we spend the money on things and we have a pattern, we're doing well, and Mike could tighten up the dollars and say, well, I ain't buying that, or I'm just going to put this in here for right now and we'll do it later. And she said, I'm the opposite. I just go out and spend money and buy these things. So it ain't, for me, it's more like, I try to stay on the path of, if we're going to buy something, let's buy the right one at one time and be done with it. And I'd rather spend that money, if it's going to cost some money, I'd rather spend it now than spend it later. And for you, it's more like, I want to save and create a budget for that to get it later.
It's multifold. And I was raised that you don't have to spend a whole bunch of money for something to be and look nice.
Well, we both agree on that.
Again, might have missed the mark, but there are things in this house that we didn't spend a whole bunch of money on, and it looks like we did. There are things that I DIY that it's like, oh, dang.
Yeah, and I would have preferred we waited. That's
what I'm saying? And so I think both things can be true. I'll accept that both things can be true, but I would also like the credit for the things that I do well, as opposed to every time I'm thinking about cutting budget is we got to be looking crazy. Like every time I've cut the budget, we don't look crazy, right? Every time I've cut the budget and killed it.
No, I'm just saying, like, it don't have to be bought at that time. Like, if we don't have it in the budget, we ain't got to buy it right now.
Okay. I can.
That's all. Just because
I can get behind that.
When you take your time on something, like you said, it's not about how much it costs. You want to take your time and do it, and use your most talented side to find it and pick it out, opposed to like, I'm just gonna do this right now because I'm gonna get it done and over with.
But you keep I don't know that is the mentality that you're given. Like because of the two things that we have, when I bought the bookshelf, it wasn't, I'm just gonna get a bookshelf because I just want to get it over with. It was, oh, that's a dope style. I like the way it was made.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, I
I
was
don't
taking
recall
my
that
time.
conversation that went that way. I
You
remember we
probably
set up the
didn't because
office.
I went and found it. It wasn't until we put it together that I was like, this is cheaper than we thought it was. But online, I'm like, oh, this is nice. And I liked it because the shapes and stuff. It wasn't a basic straight up and down bookshelf.
So I remember when you was putting this room together, you was sharing with me because when you bought the rug, you bought the chair, everything, and you was showing me everything that you was buying. Right?
Yes.
We agree on that. So you was designing it at that time.
Okay.
And you really liked that shelf. And I said, it looks small on that wall. I said, plus it don't look sturdy because even when I started putting it together, I said, it's not going to be sturdy. We had an opportunity to send it back. And he was like, no, I just liked it. I like it. So it wasn't more of like, to me, it's more of I was saying, let's take our time and look and find something else. And you was like, no, I'm ready to get my office set up because I got the rug, the chair, and all this stuff, and I want to finish.
And
I was
a bunch
like,
of books and boxes.
Yes, and I was like, okay, well, you want it done now, then that's where we at with it. But I was thinking we took our time so you can really put your mind to it. I think you was just ready to go and get the office set up.
I think it was a combination of I think it was a combination of those things. Like I said, when I looked at it, I liked it. I thought it was nice. We got it and it was raggedy. And I was like, well, we got it now. So let's put it back. And I couldn't send it back. It was Wayfair. It wasn't like an Amazon purchase.
Yeah. And then it just takes you back to, I mean, there's just some differences in the way you approach certain things. There's other things that you align with, and then there's other things like for him, and when he seen it was like, oh yeah, let's send it back or whatever, you know. And you're like, this is here, let's go for it. I mean, I'm kind of laughing because I'm thinking to myself, I know we are not sitting here talking about this show.
Right.
That part.
Yeah.
Yep.
But at the same time, I know how things go. It's like, because it really is not about the shelf.
Right.
It's not about necessarily the shelf that we're talking about, but we are talking about just some differences that you have. We was talking about like decor and spending money and those type of things and who have responsibilities. And we kind of got caught up in this. I do recall you making a statement one time before about the shelf. Somehow we were all on the screen and the shelf thing came up, but it was like in passing. You know, so those are one of those things the same way on both sides. It's like when they make a decision, if it's not life threatening, it's just kind of like.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I can say that while you were speaking of that, what I was feeling is that I probably felt like I didn't get no part in this, or she didn't trust what I was saying when I was giving my opinion about this part of the space. Okay. So I'm sure that got a lot to do with it. Like you said, we're not just arguing about the bookshelf itself, but the process of how we putting things together. You know, Michael's way versus my way. You know, and it's more like when she came around to like, I don't like it either. For me, it's like, see, I told you. You know what I mean? Or you didn't listen to me. Yeah. Type of feeling. So.
Now, I will say this. I think that statement, let's think about it like something we was talking about a little earlier. When we start talking about our egos and those type of things.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it's ever been discussed with the two of you. Is like, when we was doing this design, I felt left out. So if it was never discussed, this is a perfect example. This is a smaller scale, but you see how this is enough to have a conversation. So when it was not discussed and it's never discussed, it is somewhere always hanging.
Right.
And every time you look at that shelf, it's taking you really to a deeper place.
It is. You're right.
It's taking you to a deeper place. And then it becomes this weird thing where it's almost like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust her. And it's like, is that really what it is? Or is it what you just said? And maybe finally just kind of like came to it as we were all in this discussion that, yeah, I wasn't part of this planning. Not my opinion, nothing was taken into consideration. And I was kind of left out. And because I was left out, that stupid shelf over there is here. You know.
That triggered another thought for me too. Because if in fact what you say is true, like it's bigger than just you felt left out of a decision. In those times where moving forward, you always make the underhanded comment, well, I hope it don't be looking crazy. I hope whatever you do, it don't look crazy. That feels like, I don't know if you remember sometime in our space, it's like how you talk about, and this is going to sound extreme, but just follow me. Like how an abusive person tries to control their mate by poking at insecurities, right? And so that's extreme, but it feels like an underhanded comment to deter a decision on my part, right? Like, well, I hope it don't be looking crazy because I've already talked to you about how that makes me feel. And so if I've talked to you about how that makes me feel and you continue to do it, is that an attempt? And I don't know if this is a rhetorical question or a legit question, but is that an attempt for you to impart doubt so that I back off? Does that make sense? How I'm trying to describe that, Miss Ivy?
I get where you say. I get where you going with this. Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah. It just, I don't know. It's like, say what you feel or say what you really mean instead of, like, that feels like a dig. Right? Every time you say that, it feels like a dig. And for me, it is not a dig about a bookshelf. It's a personal dig.
Right.
In the same way that the bookshelf is not about the bookshelf for you. It's, I didn't include you in coming to a decision.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a question at the same time.
You can answer. I don't really know.
I would say one, that is not a dig at all. And if I can remember well, I may have said that twice in our entire 20 years, because when you told me that, then I was like, well, let me keep that in my mind, not to say it that way. That's not what I meant when I say it like that. But since I know that it bothers you, then I don't say that. I think another part of it is, it's also more so of what I describe as my OCD. You know what I mean? I like things in a certain flow, a certain way. Not saying anything that, that's not about you. I mean, just
I'm just listening.
So when I was making comments about, I think I'm trying to go back to that when I made something about looking crazy back then, I would say that was something separate than what I'm actually saying now.
Okay.
When I say stuff, because once again, I gave you your just due, that you know how to do, you know how to put something together. Right. Then I was saying that, but yeah, I had to.
Response I do have to that is maybe on both ends, to be just more aware, because that's what it always comes back to, how we respond to our partner's pseudo failure. Okay, because it's not like, like the house ain't burned down. I mean, there's nothing huge going on here. And sometimes we say things, and it may not even seem like a big deal, but internally, your partner could be taken in different ways.
Right.
And then also really try to identify, like, even when something is said, what is that actually connected to?
Right.
Because, words are interesting, right? You can say one word that means several different things. Then we add emotion to it. Then we add history to it. And when you get finished with all that, it's like, no, because you said such and such. And you're like, well, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be mindful. Both parties have to be mindful and take some responsibility, because if you're feeling something, it's like, let me say this. I think I might have said it before. But let me say this to you again. That hurts. And just in being very clear, because sometimes we just use conversations and we're not thinking of it. It's kind of funny, you know what I'm saying? And all of that. And we may not think of it then, but then we go away and it starts to get down in there and starts to, like I always say about resentment, start to have these babies. It's like, wait a minute, So I just say on both ends, just be mindful on how you respond to certain things like that.
So, Miss Ivy, you said something, and I would love your direction on how to navigate. So, in the scenario where I feel something, or Daryl feels something. Ew, I called you Daryl. Daryl feels something.
She got problems.
And we communicate to each other like, hey, you said or did a thing, and I feel something. I feel some type of way. What should the other partner's response be in that scenario, right? So if it's me and I'm communicating to Red, like, hey, when you said that, I didn't like how that felt. That made me feel however it made me feel. What should his response be to that?
Yeah, so whenever someone brings something to you that bring an offense to you, if you did not mean to offend, the first thing is to apologize and to explain, I'm so sorry. That was not my intention. I really was not trying. So you kind of start there, because sometimes what happens, people end up going straight to defense. They're like, well, what are you talking about? All I said was, and you're not addressing the person's feeling. A feeling is just that. Just because a person has a feeling doesn't mean that you actually did something. But when you care about a person and you want things to move forward, let's address the feeling.
Okay.
Start there. Then more conversation can come afterwards. But if you start with the defense, I can't even hear nothing else you're saying. And that goes both ways, Yeah, you just kind of shut down after that, and everything is like wah, 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 because you're not acknowledging what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Facts. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So, continue with your CEO meetings. How's that been going? Y'all been able to?
We've actually had 2 since our last session. We had the most recent one yesterday. Yesterday's was interesting because we tried to do a walk and talk meeting, and that didn't go well because we need to actually.
I think it did. We accomplished something.
I mean, we did, I think we could have gotten more done if we were like,
we did
had access to the things we needed access to. But we did get some decisions made.
Like a 2-for-1. We had time to spend some quality time walking together, and then went over. Yeah, and we got it scheduled on a regular basis. So.
Oh, there you go. That's the thing right there, is getting it scheduled. Speaking of schedule, I'm looking at my